I'm Tae Hong Yi, and today we're at Rasa for the third ST podcast live session. And this is to celebrate 180 years of the Straits Times. I'm also very happy to say that this special episode of our Headstart On Record podcast is held in partnership with Workforce Singapore in support of Career Health, a SkillsFuture initiative. And this podcast really couldn't have come at a better time. After all, in my years covering manpower and talent issues for the Straits Times, I have seen careers become more fulfilling, rewarding, and impactful than ever before for more and more people. And yet, the effort needed to get there and stay there is deeper and requires more frequent change than before. So to make sense of all these countervailing forces, I have here with me two wonderful guests to really dissect the issues involved from their experience. So first, right on my right, is Ms. Parameswari Srinivasan, a senior career coach with Workforce Singapore. Parames, as she prefers to be called, has been a veteran, really, a trained counselor, over 15 years of experience, and helped over 2,000 clients with all their careers concerns. And I really cannot think of anyone better to really dissect the issues here today with me. Hi, Parames.
Hi, Hong Hee. Thank you for the great introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here today. I'm from WSG, as he said. I've been there for more than 15 years. And in my career journey, I've helped a lot of clients who are career starters. They are also seasoned professionals in their careers. I've helped them in their career journey. And I'm particularly very passionate about helping career transitioners. Currently, I'm in this Polaris program, where we help working individuals elevate in their careers.
And alongside Parames is Mr. Noel Png. He is a telecommunication systems engineer with ST Engineering. And he has done something that I would wager most of us in this room haven't before. He has been involved in developing satellites that have gone up to space in the course of his work. He's been to the United Kingdom, has come back to Singapore, and he has really surmounted a lot of challenges along the way, proving that adversity is not an inevitable and inescapable barrier. So I would really love for everyone here to hear both of their stories, as well as Parames' perspectives today. So let's just launch into it. Now, Noel, let's start with you. So I've known you for some time. We have done a few interviews before.
Yes.
And you've had a very colorful career. And it wasn't one that was completely smooth or linear or expected. So maybe walk us through the journeys and some of the decisions that you took, the turning points, really.
So I think just to really summarize for a lot of you, I think I was one of those students in school that didn't do well. So I think I skipped pretty much 2 years of my JC life. I didn't show up until A-levels happened. I nearly didn't make it into university. I skipped 4 years of university class, too busy selling insurance, running land shops, working as a bartender. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in my life. So I think one of those funny things in life was that I was actually pouring beer at a bar one day. And I met this group of Western visitors who are doing a business convention in Singapore. And they actually happened to be working in a defense company. So that's actually how I got involved in the satellite industry. It just started out with a summer internship. And then it just sort of perpetuated itself. So that's the rough spiel.
And, this route didn't come that easy to you, right? You were sharing about your university journey. You didn't expect to be in satellites as well. So how did you then, when you faced that adversity, the struggles, what was in your mind? And how did you then really compose yourself to pursue then something that you would like to do?
I think a lot of times there were a lot of difficult moments because I think the technical work sometimes you do can be quite complex. So actually I was chatting with Parames. I think one of the biggest skills that I think we both agreed on, and you can always add on that, it's really the communication skill. So how do you ask for help when you're stuck? I mean, you can Google, you can use ChatGPT, but I'm also quite lazy. So instead of finding out the answer for myself, I'd rather have someone tell it to me. So I think a lot of it was actually the communication skills, asking for networks, asking people for help, asking them to share their own notes or resources with me. So that pretty much was really instrumental in how it helped me build my space career, from an intern and then, coming as an engineer and, accumulating into doing that final launch with SpaceX 3-4 years back. So I think if the crux of it's really communication skills, yeah.
I think Noel has knows his strengths very well. He knows what his values, his interests, his personality and skills. He shared a very interesting thing when I was chatting with him. He said that as a young kid, he liked Star Wars. And that's when he built his interest in satellites. That was an interesting finding. And a lot of time, there are a lot of interests that we have. Some of our personality, right? Naturally, we are inclined to certain interests and careers, and that can give you job satisfaction as well.
And moreover, I'd like to also highlight a very interesting story about Noel, or rather his progression from engineering to sales to back to engineering back home in Singapore, because he started out in engineering in the UK, then in sales, and then back home in Singapore and in engineering, different geographies, different business functions, different companies. How did you decide which step was the next step to take, especially because these are not natural transitions, right? When you go from, let's say, engineering to sales, there are partial overlaps involved. How do you make sense of these partial overlaps? And perhaps this is something you would also have to deal with a lot in your coaching career as well, Parames, when you're trying to get job seekers to consider lateral moves.
Yes, there's a lot of them who are all over the place. They cannot decide on what they want to move on to. And which is why this Polaris program that we advocate is very important, because we will look at their values, their interests, personality and skills. We will create a plan which will lead them to their goals. And very interestingly, we look at their skills gaps, where they can move on to. And that's very important in a career, in your life.
Was that a structured process for you like that as well, Noel? Or was it something that was a bit more fluid, would you say?
I definitely knew what my character was. So I think by now you would probably can tell that, I'm extrovert, you see. So to be honest, when I first started out doing space, and I think technical work was fairly boring. I mean, being stuck in a lab, doing all this numerical calculation stuff wasn't what I really enjoyed, So I think I kind of tailored what I wanted to do with my personality. So being an extrovert, sales is sort of the next thing that you go to, you see. And this has a very pragmatic aim to it. Because at the end of the day, you can have a very good technical product there, but the main value also lies in being able to communicate the value of that technical product to different audiences, you see. So maybe in Singapore, we are more used to dealing with the local crowd or, the Asian crowd. But of course, Singapore is also a very small and interconnected place there. So you definitely have to work with people from different cultures, different languages, and, the way they understand things, the way they collaborate with you is also really different. So I think that sales career really just exposed me to just that intercultural communication. Yeah.
And so in your experience, Parames, has it been difficult to get people to consider these next moves to somewhere that maybe a bit less familiar, but there are some transferable skill sets or some competencies?
Yes, definitely. If it's a relocation, it's going to be a longer period, right? So we don't get many people who are willing to do that. But WSG has a program called the OMIP, the OMIP program, which they work with the Singapore Business Federation. And they work with companies who are willing to train their employees overseas. And this needs to have at least about 6 months relocation to that place. There's a lot of salary support that they're giving. So it's a good opportunity for companies to come to SBF and send their employees overseas.
And of course, a relocation into a different geography is just one axis through which we can find new opportunities beyond what is immediately intuitive as the next jump. as Noel's case highlights, there are things that may have some partial overlaps in terms of the skill sets, in terms of the networks, really. And I think what the BSG has been trying to push for career planning is for people to discover these hidden pathways that they might not have been immediately aware of in the here and now. So Parames, so something I've been curious about is, for those who are unsure of their career path, how can they start?
Okay, I would say they don't have to wait until there's a crisis to start. They can always start early career, mid-career, when they are thinking about pre-retirement. They can always speak to a career coach. A career coach can always help you find out your values, interests, personality, and skills, work with you with a career plan, look at your goals that you want to accomplish after you know your values, interests, personality, and skills. You may not want to do certain things that you have different values about. So values will change at different stages in your life. For example, if I had a client who told me that when he was younger, he felt that he needs recognition. He wants to be known that he's good for everything, and that's what he wanted. And when he was about 40 plus, he felt contribution is more important for him. So his career interest changed at that point in time. So because of your values change, you may want to do something else. And this happens in different stages of your life. You don't have to wait till if something's going to happen. You can always check in with a career coach.
Well, recognition is something the three of us on stage would have plenty of now. But no, what do you say to that? In your case, what was those values that really underpinned you? Or was it really more of a pragmatic thing? What opportunities that emerged that had the best benefits? Or was there something deeper, you think?
I think it was really network driven. So I mean, just to really build on what Parames said, to say, instead of doing a career coach, I'm a bit more rebellious. I didn't do a career coach thing. I actually went to cocktail bars and clubs and started looking for people to be my mentors, you see. So these are the people who have done it, they are 30, 40, 50 plus, and they're the ones in different industries there. So in some ways, having a mentally figure is, someone that can give you life advice in a very bite-sized and more palatable manner. Maybe sometimes career coaches can be a bit fierce. I don't know. But, having mentors, they tell you more about certain industries. They tell you what kind of skills you should pick, or even like who you should talk to if you want to get more involved in the industry. And that was the case for me, because when I was in the UK, I had a lot of interaction with folks from Europe and the US. And I think that was a pretty smooth transition for me to actually change into the sales role, move to Germany itself there. So I think the character, even if you're shy, find people that you're comfortable talking to. You don't always have to be very extroverted, but kind of like, find people that you can have the similar wavelength with, and you kind of know after a while if you can talk to him or her, and it's a good fit.
So do you have any mentors you would like to maybe give a shout out to? Anyone who's given you some advice that you'd like to also share with the rest of our audience here today?
I think one of my mentors is actually sitting in the crowd there. We have Masayu sitting in the third row from the back. So, she works for a consultancy role, basically. So I think having mentors from different backgrounds, people in really quote-unquote artist jobs, people that are in the entertainment industry, things like that. So I think these are the people that will really give you different kind of inputs. And from there, you sort of maybe speak with a career coach, and you learn a lot more about yourself there. So the biggest takeaway I have is to hone that gut feeling inside of what I like to do, what I think I can do, and then sort of trust that instinct to just follow through with the process, even though things get a bit challenging, difficult at times.
And that actually touches on to a very interesting point in sociology called kind of the theory kind of surrounding weak ties,
Yes.
where sometimes the people you have more indirect connections with, people you meet perhaps like a friend of a friend or a friend's colleague, might actually end up giving you more professional insight because firstly, they are more likely to have come from a wider range of backgrounds.
Yep.
And secondly, because they're less likely to sugarcoat their words, basically. So I think this really exemplifies that. And this was not all you did know, right? Not just going to cocktail bars. There was a story involving coupons that you shared with both of us before this.
That one. So I think one of the things that a lot of career coaches and mentors will tell you is the networking part. So network is really important. I think everyone in the room, you're quite familiar with LinkedIn. I was a bit more rebellious, because back then I was too lazy to do up my LinkedIn profile. I didn't know how to do a CV back then when I was 20 or 21, you see. So, as a child, they used to have the Happy Meal toys on your McDonald's coupons, and you can tear it off and get your $3 cheeseburger and an ice Milo, right? So I basically started sticking QR codes on that kind of coupon thing, and I stood outside exit A or one of those Raffles MRT stations. So every time during the lunch crowd, they would come out from the office buildings. I just started handing out flyers, you see. Yeah, so in that way, by the end of the day or by the end of the week, right, I think I made like 50 to 80 new contacts, because there'll be people who'll be coming up to you, talking to you, asking, hey, are you trying to sell me something? Or, are you insurance? Or, what are you trying to do, you see? And then that kind of forms a bit of that social connection there. So that also got me off into kind of explain how I also got into the defense industry in Europe also. Yeah.
And the exit is just around the corner from here, really. So I would imagine this is a spot that hosts some
Very comfortable.
fond memories for you.
Very comfortable.
Yeah. And I guess this is, of course, a more outlier case, but the general principle applies, I imagine, Parames, would you say, in terms of networking? And on that point, maybe do you have any pointers for people who are a bit less outgoing but would like to try to network, especially to network meaningfully, because not all networking events or sessions or interactions are equal to each other, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. Apart from networking on LinkedIn, you can always speak to a career coach. No, we are not strict people. We are very happy to help you. You can also connect with us. WSG has got a wide range of volunteer career advisors in various industries. They are career experts. They really share their experience with you. They can mentor you. They can talk to you about career progression in that industry, what is wanted in the industry, and you can learn a lot about the industry from these advisors.
Thanks a lot, Parames. And I think the general theme of this conversation has basically been about options, really. When we talk about longevity, it's really to consider a wider range of options that we might typically do, both in terms of where geographically we can go, what markets we can go to, and also in terms of the skill sets that we can use, because the same skill set or the same type of role sometimes may cross-cut into other industries. And I imagine this is some of the conversations that you have in coaching.
Yeah, of course. So there are lots of people way back, they may have gotten their jobs because of peer pressure, because of parents' influence, and they might be in an industry that may not be what they like now. Maybe there's certain stages of their life have changed, and so change is a constant, right? So there's a lot of things that might be going on for them now that they don't like the job that they were doing. Burnout, can be no progression, no challenge, can be a lot of these things. And they will then rethink about what they're going to do. And not to fret, because WSG has a lot of mid-career transition programs, like the career conversion programs. We also have the mid-career transition programs, and you can find them all on the website. It's a very good resource for you to move into something very new to you.
And I'd like to stay on that point of moving into something new for both of you. When we look at opportunities, especially opportunities that are not immediately a natural transition, right? How do you know if it's the right move for you? Because in Noel's case, engineering to sales to engineering, but back home in Singapore, a lot could have gone wrong in that. How do you kind of mitigate the downsides, really? What are some of the things to look out for? What are some of the thought process to structure, especially as we look at the sort of abundance of choice we have from more hidden pathways that we might otherwise not consider? So
what we do in our program, as I said, I will talk about the Polaris program because that one really touches on this. And we look at the values, the interests, personality, and skills. So naturally, there are some people who can assimilate into certain roles, which will make them a better leader or things like that. So, and then they decide what they want to do after knowing themselves better. So that makes a better choice for them. Once they know a lot about themselves, what they like to do, what their strengths, their weakness, and where they can go, then they decide on what's out there, what are the trending industries, and where they can move their transferable skills to. And then they decide on their goals, and we help them to make actionable steps to get there.
Right. What about you, Noel?
I'm gonna challenge that point. Sorry. I think I'm more of I think I'm Gen X, Gen Z, or millennial crowd. I don't know. But I think one of the biggest things that I always tell people is you fail fast and you plan fast, you see. So one of the easiest ways to really understand that is you do have a lot of learning resources online, that you can go and do some short learning courses there. So as you sort of do it for maybe a half a month, you kind of get a feel of, is this something that I can do professionally? Is this a skill that I can pick up? And it doesn't need to be technical skills. I mean, technical are one of the main things, but even things like design or even language courses and stuff. So as you kind of do those courses, I think you sort of learn more about yourself, but you also gain an extra skill at the same time. And in the process, you definitely sort of pick up industries that generally may or would definitely utilize some of these courses, you see, some of these skills itself. So that itself also acts as a self-directed way, because sometimes, when you have a career coach or a mentor, there could be a bit of a age gap or, certain kind of gaps there. So ultimately, you yourself understand yourself the best, you see. So, take charge of your learning, take charge of your own self-improvement. And even if you think that you are doing fairly okay in your career, at just 1 or 2 years, every 2-3 months, always ask yourself, where am I headed? Am I happy with that direction? Where do I need to be next? And how do I get there? And what kind of skills do I need to do to get to that point there?
Right, Noel. Then in that case, what made you decide to come back? Because I guess this is against the backdrop of there being a big push to get a lot more Singaporeans to go out and get that overseas exposure. Yet there are also significant challenges on that front on getting people out there. And yet you have almost bucked the trend, really. You've gone out there from the outset and then come back. So what prompted that decision?
I think I spent about 4 years in Europe and UK doing space. And I think things were actually fairly going well there. But I think I kind of recognized that back in Singapore. Okay, it sounds a bit nerdy, but Singapore was actually starting to take off on the space program kind of things, you see. So you would actually read more about space and satellites in the newspaper. So I think I was sort of at a juncture where I kind of figured, okay, maybe it's time to go back and, continue that career path of space and satellites, or maybe do something associated to it, sort of maybe share a bit of the knowledge and experience with the younger students. And I think that was quite a natural transition. So in that way, getting that job in, as a telecommunications engineer was actually quite a sweet spot. So yeah, I think I was lucky enough for it to fit just nicely. Yeah.
But I think also you shouldn't undersell your own effort in doing so, because you took risks, you took calculated risks on things that then stacked up very nicely. And I think that is ultimately one of the big outcomes you want in terms of getting career help, right?
Yes, definitely. If people are willing to take that risk that Noel has taken, it will be much easier. But in life, in reality, it doesn't happen, right? Because it's a lot of effort. You need time to go overseas, and you need to leave your family here. There could be other things that you need to look at. Yeah, and definitely it's something that people need to consider now.
So then, Parames, on to you about your own journey in that way. So you were trained as a counselor. How did you end up as a career coach and staying for so long, actually?
Oh, actually, I started as a coach, and then I got trained as a counselor because I realized that counseling skills are very important also when dealing with people.
And I think that's, attested to by over 2,000 clients. Any memorable cases that maybe you could share with us? I know you shared a couple earlier in the conversation, but any that really affirmed your choice and gave you that deep satisfaction over having helped somebody?
Well, okay. I've actually helped a lot of them understand. If you talk about this program, this personalized plan, a lot of them actually understood more about themselves. They realized why they are in such a career. So they don't only come when there's a crisis. So I had a sales director who actually came to me and asked me, Parames, I want to know whether I'm in the right career. Whether I can go on like this until 65 or sometime in my career trajectory. And after he did all the assessments and he affirmed himself that, yes, he's going to stay in the line.
And what's your proudest moment, Noel, and how does that keep you going?
I think So being a satellite engineer it's a lot like building your own Lego blocks. I mean, it is pretty much similar to Lego. So I think of course the proudest moment is building the stuff that you've labored on. It's a bit like looking after a child, or like a kid. It kind of needs time to grow. As with anything technical, the plan doesn't. You can plan, but then nothing goes according to plan. So there's a lot of late nights and last minute things that you have to do, and it kind of accumulates into a final launch. So they kind of put the satellite inside a jack-in-the-box kind of pod. They put it on the rocket body and they actually send you a live stream link. So you actually get to see the satellite that you built get launched off, you see. And, SpaceX will be on the live stream with you and they'll tell you, okay, next up is going to be your company satellite. And then you kind of see that satellite get ejected. So I think for me, that was one of the happiest moments. I think I was really excited like a little kid, posting about it on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. So I think that's the proudest moment for me. But if I could sound a bit politically correct, my next proudest moment was returning home to Singapore last year.
And, this is, I guess the wider theme of this conversation is aspiring to be among the stars, right? We have so much star-themed imagery and parallels. The BSG with its Polaris project, and then Noel with his satellite launches. So I think just to end it off on a final note, when we worked on this podcast, the theme we picked on building a career for the ages was very deliberate because we meant for the ages in two senses, both in terms of all our different stages of life, as well as to weather all the different economic transitions and shocks and ride off them. And I think we've touched really well on how do we navigate through both of these forces. And I would like to thank Noel and Parames again for such a wonderful conversation. But for now, it's a wrap for this special episode of Headstart On Record in partnership with Workforce Singapore in support of Career Health, a SkillsFuture initiative. And thanks a lot, everyone.